to Cover Story. This week our focus is on Delhi Chief Minister Sheila Dikshit as she gears up for the November Assembly polls. In an exclusive interview to Cover Story, Sheila Dikshit dismisses the challenges thrown by Arvind Kejriwal and party. She also talks about her achievements and failures. Actually, being a seasoned politician, she talks more about her achievements than her failures. For the last 15 years, Delhiites have been ruled by a warm, matronly smile. That smile is still there, if a little strained, as the 75-year-old Sheila Dikshit gets ready for yet another electoral battle to retain Delhi. The Delhi Chief Minister knows all too well that it is she who will be the main issue in the November Assembly polls, as both the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party will be focusing their attack on brand Sheila. A 3-term anti-incumbency gives them plenty of ammunition, but what works for Sheila Dikshit is that the opposition is yet to find a face that will take her on. Let's ask the CM how she plans to retain her legacy. Hello and welcome to Cover Story. If you win the next coming elections, I think we are on the brink of making history, because I can't recall any Congress Chief Minister who's won 4 consecutive elections in a row.
You use the word "if you win." Now there is "if" there. So let's see when that happens. Then we will talk of history. Right now it's in the realm of the future and the realm of hope.
But can you recall over the last, I've been trying to jog my memory, was it Siddharth Shankar Ray who's won 4 consecutive elections from the Congress?
No, I can't think of it either. It may have been in the early 60s or 50s or not, when there was much more stability. But I can't recall it myself. But perhaps I will look up my history, and I think all of us should.
Well, but also, in terms of, just to move the topic, you've been very successful in beating all the acronyms that have been hurled against you, whether it is CWG or BRT. Now there is AAP, the Aam Aadmi Party is planning to take you on very strongly. What do you think of this challenge that is being posed by Arvind Kejriwal?
Priyaji, I'll tell you one thing, that all the accusations that were made against us, you spoke of the CWT, we answered CAG. It didn't have anything substantial against our government. It said something about this funds being utilized by the organizing committee and all. But we answered each
government in charge, it comes to your responsibility.
No, the government means our government, the Delhi government. You see, it was a collective effort. And whatever we were responsible for, we not only delivered, but we answered, as I said, every query or every paragraph by paragraphs. At the end of it all, when they finally came out with it, there was nothing.
But you haven't answered my 3rd acronym, the Aam Aadmi Party. Are you going to kill them with indifference? They don't matter?
No, I don't think we need to take cognizance of that. Where is the party? I really don't want to comment on that. It's an individual doing something, fine.
But the individual has made it clear he wants to fight against you per se. He's going to fight from
whatever.
That's
fine. He is welcome. But let us see what will happen, because the elections are going to be the second half of November. The party is to be made, and when as it comes along, we'll face it. I don't think it's made anybody in the Congress anyway jittery or anything like that. Not at all.
But forget, you don't want to talk about Aam Aadmi Party, but there is a movement, a citizens movement that is going on against governments. They find that there is corruption. For instance, this issue of inflated bills. He did have 10.5 lakh people writing letters to you, and that's, I think, 1/10 of one Delhi's 1.2 crore. So that's a sizable chunk of your voters that are upset.
Priya, I'd like to say one thing. You talk of inflated bills and electricity, number one. You're getting electricity all the time, or maybe 3 weeks that there has been some erratic supply. Now, inflated bills, what is causing this inflation? If somebody will think of that, where there were 1 fan, there are 2 fans, where there was no washing machine, there's a washing machine, where there was fan, there's a cooler now. Where there was a cooler, there's an air conditioner. Where there was an air conditioner, several have come in. Our statistics tell us that the sale of air conditioners has doubled in the past 2-3 years.
Statistics are fine, but emotionally when you see a bill, you're going to blame the government.
No,
will this logic work
please.
with the voter?
I think we should look at this also. Somebody has to say it. Why is it that if I have 3 cars running in my house, and I say my petrol bill has gone up, well, I'm running 3 cars. And then Delhi's electric bills and charges for electricity are about the lowest. Bombay has just increased it by 60-70%. Remember,
but your voters are in Delhi, not in Bombay, not in Haryana. Your voters are here, so they're not going to compare their bills to Haryana. They're going to say, I got high bills.
No, but you have to see now. You have to see the real picture. And Haryana has increased it, UP has increased it, Bombay. They're not doing it for the fun of it. Please, no government, least of all a government which is going into an election, would like to increase anything or would like to, do anything that would hurt the sentiments of the people. I'd like to ask the opposition in Delhi, when they were ruling it from 93 to 98 or whatever, how much electric power did you use? 1,900 plus or 2,000, huh? Now you're using 5,600 megawatts. Look at the difference.
But again, I'm sorry, I'm getting it back to the Aam Aadmi Party because that is the debate right now. They've stirred a lot of headlines. Do you see them emerging as a regional third force in Delhi? People are saying there was no third party in Delhi. Could they fill that gap?
I'm so sorry, Priyaji, but Aam Aadmi is not a debate.
It's sensational headline. What would you call it?
No. I would say that it's there. All right, it's there. They, like any other parties are there. BSP came up, RJD came up, JDU came up, BJP came up, we are there. All like any other party, it's there. I don't see why it is being spoken of different from any other. They have political aspirations, they formed a party. Let's see what happens in the elections.
Is there a difference, because I remember when Anna Hazare was fasting, Sandeep Dikshit and your political secretary Pawan Khera went and they tried to negotiate and buy peace. And I was told that Kejriwal was the stumbling block even then. So you would say this, what the movement that Anna Hazare started, which he is now hijacked, is it a different movement now altogether?
No, I want you to look at the history of this. Anna Hazare came and had a fast here. It was a fast against corruption. Huh? So all these people joined up and all. And it was the duty of the government or any other people who were there to try and see, that they withdraw the fast and all. It's everybody's duty. That's what happened. And the whole thing is broken up. Everybody, the key members who were on the stage at that point of time, showing flags and all, they've all broken up. The fight against corruption, is it there or is it not? Because part of it has become political, part of it is there. It's difficult for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, to understand what they're getting at, what is their aim. You see, they wanted a Lokpal bill or something. Lokpal bill was brought in and therefore it was. So there's a lot of confused thinking going on. To comment on confused thinking would make me also confused because, you're all feeling confused, but it has anybody who is a political party or a social activist, they have to have some direction. Now, what is the message you're sending? To us it's no message. So let it evolve. When it evolves and when it contests, if it does, then we'll face it then.
Do you think the Delhi government may bear the brunt of this whole, the UPA has getting a corruption taint, and since you are the government in the capital,
I would like to ask,
do you think there may be an impact of the central government?
I would like to say something. You're talking of the UPA government's corruption.
Right. And 2 ministers who resigned on corruption piece.
Yeah, they've resigned, okay. What about the corruption?
Forced to resign?
No. you look at the corruption everywhere else. Look at the corruption in the BJP. Look at the corruption in Gujarat.
Fair enough, but comparative
look at the corruption in Chhattisgarh. Look at it in Madhya Pradesh. And corruption is there. It's just that UP happens to be in power. Is the government of the day. Therefore, this corruption gets more talked about. But you know, the whole system is and I sincerely feel that we must have a relook at it. What is the changes that we need to bring out? Should governments bear the cost of elections? You know, what should be the code and all? These are things I think we really ought to seriously sit down together and look at it.
We spoke about confusion earlier, like really what I am confused about. In the BJP, there is a 3-term chief minister who aspires to be prime minister and is projected. But look at the Congress, you know, we have a 3-term chief minister, but Sheila Dikshit is not aspiring to be prime minister. Why?
No, I'm not.
Why? Because why should there be two different levels for two parties?
Ours is a party which has been functioning in a particular manner. We choose a prime minister after we have won an election. In this case, you've announced prime minister, not one, but several others.
But they're all chief ministers with a track record, and your record matches and beats most of theirs.
That's their style of functioning.
But why not you? Why is
No. Certainly not.
Or
It's never been our style, never will be. And I certainly will not be a party to this, that you project yourself just because you won. Winning a state and winning a country are two very different things. Please remember that.
But here we have someone who's ruled a state, at least he has some experience of governance, being pitched against a candidate who's not even ruled a ministry. I'm talking about Rahul versus Modi. Thoda to experience ka taqaza hota hai.
Has Rahul Gandhi any time announced he's going to become prime minister? No.
But loyal?
No.
Well, neither has Modi, to be fair. He's also not announced that he wants to be.
He's announced himself everywhere that they see. If he's not announcing it, then his acolytes are. It's very
Rahul's acolytes. Even Rahul's people are. It's not him, but people.
He's said it time and again, including the Jaipur conclave that we had, where he is interested in building up the party. He has said it. Now, what happens after the 2014 elections, that time alone will say. He's not going to say it. You have here, the style of the BJP and the style of the Congress are styles in contrast, absolute contrast. None of us is saying anything that this one will be the prime minister or nothing. There may be little whispering talks about somebody being...
Your Prime Minister himself has said, I won't mind a third term.
No.
He's put his hat in the race.
No, the Prime Minister says it. He's the Prime Minister. Please remember that. He's the Prime Minister. And he also said that he would like to bless Rahulji. He's the Prime. After all, don't bring him down to the level of others, you see. I don't think it's being fair. And as I said, the political culture of the Congress is very, very, very different.
In what sense? I can see the same thing happening. You are projecting Rahul, they are projecting Modi. The difference is that here only what the high command, your so-called high command decides, only those names come up. Here, even a Shivraj Chauhan will say, "Main bhi hu."
No, Rahul Gandhi is the Vice President of the Congress Party.
And a Prime Minister in waiting?
No, he is a Vice President of the Congress Party. Sonia Gandhi was the President of the Congress Party. And she refused the Prime Ministership. You remember that? Our style that what will be the coalition partners, if any, there will be coalitions, there won't be coalitions, which will be the more effective one. Nothing of the sort is there. We go according to a certain political culture which is there, a culture of very long standing. We have good leaders, and when the situation arrives, it hasn't arrived just now. When the situation arrives, circumstances will take their own decision.
But are grassroots leaders like yourself worried? Because in the Congress there is also this culture to parachute leaders from the top, like what happened in Uttarakhand. We saw the Congress win the seat under Harish Rawat's guidance, but the last minute he was denied the chief ministership and Bahuguna was given. They tried to do the same in Himachal, but Veerbhadra Singh put up a revolt. Are you worried that they may do the same in...
Everybody, in a political, personal way, everybody would like to try their best. But I think it's eventually the wisdom of the High Command, the Congress High Command, which takes the decision. Bahuguna was chosen. Just like here, Veerbhadra was chosen. And Veerbhadra's wife has just won a thumping majority yesterday.
But that's because Veerbhadra protested and organized a Shakti Pradashan to say that do not impose Anand Sharma or a lightweight from Delhi.
No, you've got it all wrong. It's this thing. He never protested. I was in charge of Himachal. Yes, we worked and he knew.
Was he not threatening
and he was very
the
clear. He said, "You give me this, I'll take on the responsibility." He offered to take on, but there was no bickering or anything. Please.
There was no attempt to deny him the chief minister's chair.
No. Aspirations is one thing, you know. People have aspirations, but if we had not been together in Himachal or in Uttarakhand, we wouldn't have won the two states. And then it's the choice of the party to elect whichever leader they want to elect.
Isi mein I am worried about this so-called choice of the party. Do they do this to cut people they see becoming tall to size?
No, but why should it worry you? I want to ask you one little question.
As your well-wisher, it worries
No. It should not worry anybody because that is the system. When the BJP came into power, it chose Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Okay? Fine. Nobody, it's the party, it's come into power, or it's the majority party.
A very grudging Advani.
The same it was with BP Singh's time. So, you see, you want to read between the lines, you can read anything between the lines. But the fact is that the party, which is in the position to make a government, chooses its leaders. Or it chooses its leader by consensus, and eventually this High Command says, yes, this is fine. That's all. That's always been our style.
But I'll tell you what I am reading between the lines is this recent transfer of Ajay Makhan to Delhi. That are they trying to prop him up? Do you see this attempt that he would become your Bahuguna?
No. Please, Ajay Makhan has been made in charge of communications of the party. Okay?
But there's always been the whispered innuendos that...
Whisperings, there's so many kinds of whisperings. Where 1 crore and 70 lakh people live, there are going to be 1 crore 70 lakh whisperings. So he's been made that, fine, he's working there. But to read in that it's either a demotion or otherwise, I don't think is correct. It was a requirement in a judgment, the High Command thought that having him there would be good, fine. Let us get through the Delhi election, then only will we decide who the leader is going to be.
No, I think for instance, at least political analysts who are predicting the election, they're saying 3 out of 4 will go to BJP and Delhi everybody is giving to the Congress and largely on your charisma, on the Sheila Dikshit brand name. For instance, you know, what happens if the BJP puts up a dark horse? Right now, if it's Vijay Goyal and you, it's probably a cakewalk. This is the way political analysts are seeing it. But are you worried about the BJP putting up, say, Arun Jaitley or Sushma again?
No.
Would they be a
I'm not worried about anything. It's the BJP's decision. They are a political party and they have put up Mr. Vijay Goyal as their president local here. Fine.
Okay. And what about, this law and order has become a very touchy subject.
Yes,
it has a rise in rates. And you've been arguing a lot saying let law and order come under state government. Neeraj Kumar has said even if it does come under state government, it's not going to change anything. Is he correct? What would you do differently if law and order was under you?
You know, that's a percept. You see, law and order is not what it ought to be for a capital city of a country. That's a fact. Now, there have been studies, that Delhi should get the full kind of statehood with more powers to it. This current system of administering Delhi is not the most ideal system. That because the responsibility is not really fixed, the people expect the elected government, the elected government. And most people would not understand that this land does not come under you or police does. So I think it needs a relook certainly, but it is for Parliament, because this state of Delhi was made by an act of Parliament. So it's for the Parliament to come together. During the BJP rule, when Atal Bihari ji was the Prime Minister, a bill did come, but it was scuttled.
By the NDA or by the UPA?
By the NDA.
Why doesn't the UPA revive it again then?
No, what I'm saying is that if today the BJP is saying that we will give you statehood, okay, that's one of their planks, na? So why didn't you give it when you were there?
Why isn't the Congress giving it now?
No, I'm saying Congress has never been, there are these studies there, but Congress has never reacted to it. But to make these kind of utterments or announcements that when we come we will give a statehood, then you could have done it when you were there, and you had nearly done it, then you scuttled it yourself.
Okay, now last few questions about you personally. You know, you've been a 3-term CM. Why should we vote for you for the 4th term? What will you do that you haven't yet done?
Oh, there are plenty of things.
What is the unfinished agenda?
You see, Delhi is a very vibrant city, and as I've always said, within quotes, that there are really no full stops in Delhi. You know,
a lot of exclamation marks.
Yeah, you always got something on. So there's plenty of work to do here. And our dream really, vision really is, we've reached it to some extent but not fully, that we will really make it into a first-class city, world-class city, first-class, world-class city.
What is your greatest achievement, the one that you would really think has been your?
Well, I don't know. It's difficult always to count one's achievements, because one would rather count what needs to be done more to do that.
I'm going to ask you about failures also.
About?
Achievement and failure.
Failures, yes, achievements. So metro has been there, bigger hospitals, better economy, more comfortable living, better water supply. For instance, people talk about water, but when we came on it was 680 million gallons a day. Today we are giving 880 million gallons. So there have been improvements all along. Not perhaps as much as we would have liked them to be, but there have been improvements all along.
And where have you failed in your eyes?
I think where we have failed is we have not been able to make Delhi into as planned a city outside of the area that was planned as we should have been able to. Even though today, this is one of our great achievements, to have given recognition to unauthorized colonies, to give ownership rights to resettlement colonies which were made by Indira ji. So there are some drawbacks. Land issues are not been totally resolved. Yamuna has not been. That's a great disappointment.
It's still on your to-do list.
Yeah, it's a great disappointment.
But about slums, you just recently made a comment that slums are being encouraged as vote banks. Congress is the biggest culprit here.
No. They are not encouraged as vote banks, they become vote banks after they become. Now what has happened in the planning of Delhi in the last 3 or 4 decades? A lot of construction has gone on. High-rise buildings, flyovers. Everywhere that a building came up, people came as construction labor. They sat there and nobody bothered to do. So you had these clusters, and they never went back, because for them the opportunities here were much more. Now, the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, which was made here in the last Commonwealth Games, all spruced up and done up, there we made it a point that the labor which had come there will go back. But whether they went back or not, or went into another cluster,
there's no way of checking. Your friend Kamal Nath must be very unhappy at opposition to high-rise buildings. He's very keen on this.
You see, I don't think we should make high-rise buildings around it. If you look at Barakamba Road, for instance, you know, it doesn't look like Delhi.
No.
You know, it's just a small street, not a very big, large.
The lungs of Delhi are vanishing.
Yes. So you see, I would say that as long as we can afford it, we should not have high rises. And it's a green city, so let it remain green.
You've done a lot on that in the green.
Yes, that's been a
greening of
passion.
Delhi.
That's been a passion.
That's been. What else is your passion? I know it's watching movies is a huge passion. Do you get time for that?
Well, you know, I wanted always to see that Delhi became a cultural capital. It has today.
Which is the last movie you saw?
The last movie I saw was Lincoln. It's been some time now, but then I haven't had the time, really speaking. And the last Hindi movie I saw, I can't remember, was Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara or something like that.
Oh, that's very old.
It is. Yes, I haven't been to a Hindi movie.
But what is your Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara? Very apt. What is your next plans for the future after?
Well, at the moment, my plan till November this year is to see that, you know, we are in a position to come back into power.
After that, are you keen to continue or would you like to give up?
After that, we'll see how it works out. Because soon after that, there will be the Lok Sabha elections. So it depends on what. I haven't thought beyond that. Today, my focus is on that we are going to face an election and we should face it with confidence.
You did that. You left Delhi, you came back and...
No, I left Delhi because I had to.
You got married.
I got married and all the rest of it.
But do you ever see yourself as an outsider or you always...
No, I never felt an outsider in Delhi. No, certainly not. No. Because I've lived here most of my life. I was educated, schooled here and everything, college also. And those are perhaps the most formative years for you to fall in love in or out of any particular place that you're in. Yeah. So I've never felt uncomfortable in Delhi. It's like it's a passion for me.
Last question, what's your favorite haunt in Delhi? If I say take the day off, where would you go?
Oh, there's so many of them. At one time it used to be the cottage industries, then it became Labourhane, then it became the cinema halls, and then it was, the chaat eating areas, it was college. So it keeps changing. And I remember very well that, you know, the end of Delhi was the Matka Peer, that is the ITPO now, when I used to be in school, but it's spread way beyond. I never knew East Delhi at all across the river, and now I know it.
So the sun represents it.
Yeah. So Delhi is changing, it's always changing.
Thank you so much for talking to NewsX and talking about Delhi, not just the political but all of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was the capital's mother at her chief ministerial rest. That is all for this week. Thank you for watching Cover Story and see you again next week.